Have you ever caught yourself sitting in your favorite chair, cup of tea in hand, wondering where all the time went? One moment you're chasing after toddlers or climbing your career ladder, and the next thing you know, you're retired, watching the seasons pass through your window. Life has a funny way of speeding up just when you start to slow down. And sometimes, in those quiet moments, a little voice inside whispers, "Did I miss something important along the way?" That's what we're here to talk about today. Not regrets, not what-ifs, but the wisdom that only comes with living a full life. The kind of lessons that hit deeper the older you get. You see, when you talk to people in their 80s, 90s, even over 100, they don't talk about the jobs they had or how much money they made. They talk about the little things. The things they didn't do. The love they held back. The days they spent worrying about things that, in the end, didn't matter at all. This isn't just advice from old people, it's a wake-up call, a gentle nudge, maybe even a necessary shake of the shoulders to remind you, it's never too late to shift your perspective and live with more intention. Let me ask you something, how often do you truly live in the moment? Not just physically being somewhere, but emotionally, mentally present? One elderly gentleman once said, "If I could live my life over, I'd stop to watch more sunsets." It sounds simple, maybe even a little poetic, but think about it. When was the last time you watched the sun go down and didn't reach for your phone or think about tomorrow's plans? We get so caught up in doing that we forget just being is enough. That brings me to something many older folks say they wish they knew sooner, the power of slowing down, not because you have to, but because it gives life more meaning. When you're young, everything feels urgent. You rush to grow up, to succeed, to prove something. But with age, you begin to realize that the most valuable moments often happen in the spaces between plans. In the pauses. In the quiet conversations. In the mornings when you have nothing to do but enjoy your coffee and the sound of birds outside. A woman I once spoke to, 92 years old and sharp as a tack, told me this: don't just exist. Feel. Laugh. Cry. Let people know they matter. And tell them now, not later. Her husband had passed away decades ago. She said they rarely said "I love you" aloud, they just assumed the other knew. Now I say it every day, she smiled, to my kids, to my grandkids, even to the neighbor's cat if I feel like it. Why hold back? That hit me. How many of us go through our days holding back how we really feel, waiting for the right time? But the truth is, the right time is a myth. All we really have is now. The people who've lived the longest often say the same thing: say what needs to be said, while you still can. Another thing that comes up again and again is the idea that joy is found in simplicity. Think about it. When you're young, joy seems like something you chase, maybe it's in a new car, a vacation, or getting that big promotion. But the older you get, the more you realize joy was never hiding in big moments, it was in the small ones all along. The way your child squeezed your hand at the grocery store. The laugh you shared with your partner when you both forgot why you walked into the room. The warm sun on your face on a spring morning. One man, 88 years old, told me he used to worry about everything: bills, reputation, looking successful. But now, his happiest days are the ones where nothing big happens. A good sandwich, a good nap, and the sound of my wife humming in the kitchen. That's heaven. And you know what else? He told me something that stuck with me more than anything. He said, "Don't wait until your body gives out to appreciate all the things it can still do. Dance a little in the kitchen. Walk barefoot in the grass. Stretch. Hug someone like you mean it. You'll miss it when it's gone." We often underestimate how much our bodies do for us every day, especially after 60. Instead of focusing on what hurts or what doesn't work like it used to, what if we celebrated what still does? What if we treated every deep breath, every steady step, every moment of laughter as a little miracle? As we grow older, we gain the one thing money can't buy: perspective. And with that comes the ability to choose peace over perfection. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to fix every problem. Sometimes, just being there, really being there for someone else, is more than enough. So, if you've ever felt like you missed the train on living a full, meaningful life, I want to tell you something important. You didn't. The train is still here. Right now. It's waiting for you to hop on and look out the window. To enjoy the view. To stop chasing and start embracing. You see, the most beautiful part of getting older isn't what you lose, it's what you gain. Clarity. Wisdom. The courage to say no to things that drain you and yes to things that fill you up. And above all, the understanding that every moment is precious, even the ordinary ones. Let that sink in for a moment. Let it remind you that today, right now, is still yours to shape. You don't need permission. You don't need a reason. You just need the willingness to open your eyes and your heart to what matters. Now that we've opened the door to what truly counts in life, let's keep walking through it, one step at a time, and when you start to walk through that door, something amazing happens. You begin to see life with new eyes. The things you once took for granted start to shimmer with a kind of quiet magic. A phone call from an old friend doesn't feel like just a chat anymore, it feels like a gift. A warm meal shared with family becomes a memory in the making, not just another dinner. It's almost as if, the older we get, the more clearly we see what was always there. That life isn't measured by milestones, but by moments. Now, let me ask you, when was the last time you did something just for the joy of it? Not because you had to, not because it was productive or useful, but simply because it made you feel alive? One woman I spoke to, she must have been in her late 80s, told me she recently started painting again. Not for anyone else, she said, not to sell it or show it. Just because I love the feel of a brush in my hand. She laughed and added, my hands shake, but the joy is steady. That's the kind of energy we forget we're allowed to have. Somewhere along the way, life teaches us to be serious, responsible, efficient. But life doesn't stop being playful just because we age. You can still try new things, take up a hobby, go on a silly adventure. You can still dance. You can still fall in love with people, with places, with passions. That spark inside you? It's still there. It just needs a little air to breathe again. You'd be surprised how many older people say the same thing. They wish they had cared less about what others thought. It's almost universal. A man once told me he spent decades being the strong one for his family. He never cried, never asked for help, never admitted when he felt lost. It wasn't strength, he said quietly, it was fear. I was afraid of looking weak. But now I cry during commercials and I don't care who sees it. It feels good to feel. Isn't that something? The strength we think we're showing by holding it all in, sometimes, it just builds walls. And with age, we finally start to see that real strength comes from softness. From honesty. From connection. Vulnerability, it turns out, isn't a flaw, it's the bridge that brings people closer. And speaking of connection, there's another lesson I've heard over and over again: don't wait to reach out. Don't assume people know you care. Don't assume they'll always be there. Life is unpredictable, and relationships are like gardens. If you don't water them, they wither. One lovely lady, she must have been nearly 90, told me she lost touch with her best friend from childhood. They hadn't spoken in over 40 years. I kept thinking I'd call next week, she said. Then I found out she passed. I still talk to her in my dreams sometimes. That kind of silence leaves a hole in your heart. So pick up the phone. Write the letter. Forgive the mistake, whether it's theirs or yours. Time may not heal everything, but kindness? That gets pretty close. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, it's too late for me. Too late to change. Too late to make new friends. Too late to start over. But let me tell you, I've met people who learned to swim in their 70s, people who got married in their 80s, people who started businesses or wrote books or moved to new cities after 60. You are not too late. You are right on time for something beautiful if you let it in. One of my favorite conversations was with a 95-year-old man who told me, I used to be afraid of dying. Now I'm more afraid of not living. He said it wasn't the years that mattered, it was how you filled them. He still woke up each morning, made himself a strong cup of coffee, and wrote one page in his journal. Sometimes it's just what the sky looks like, he laughed. But it's mine. It keeps me connected to the world. You don't need grand plans to feel alive. Just a reason to get out of bed. Just a spark of curiosity. Just anything that reminds you you're still part of the story. And if you've been carrying around guilt or resentment or regret, maybe now's the time to set it down. That's another thing I hear all the time. I wish I had forgiven sooner. Not just others, but themselves. You've made mistakes. We all have. But holding on to pain doesn't protect us, it only poisons the present. Let go. Not because what happened didn't matter, but because you matter more. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to rewrite the past and start giving grace to the person you were. You did the best you could with what you knew. Now you know better. Now you can do better. I want you to think about what brings you joy right now. Not what brought you joy 20 years ago, not what someone else says should make you happy. But you. What makes you smile these days? Is it tending to your garden? Cooking a favorite meal? Sitting quietly with your pet? Listening to music from your youth? That's the good stuff. That's the treasure. And the beautiful thing is, joy doesn't expire. It doesn't belong to the young. It belongs to anyone willing to open the door and invite it in. So if today feels heavy, if the world feels distant or overwhelming or just a little too quiet, remember this, you're not done yet. Your story is still being written. And maybe, just maybe, the best chapters are the ones where you finally give yourself permission to live exactly as you are. Because there's something incredibly freeing about that moment when you realize you don't have to prove anything anymore. Not to your family, not to society, not even to yourself. You've already lived through so much love and heartbreak, hope and disappointment, joy and loss. You've already done the hard parts. Now is the time to live lighter, not carry heavier. I remember speaking to a woman who was 101. She sat in her chair, wrapped in a handmade quilt, and looked me dead in the eye. You know what matters now, she said, smiling. That my daughter calls me every Sunday. That I can still taste my tea. That the sun still shines on my front porch. Her voice was soft, but her words carried weight. At the end, all the extra stuff just falls away. You realize how little you needed it after all. We spend so much of our lives chasing what we think we need. A bigger house. A better car. A fuller calendar. But none of those things hold your hand when you're scared. None of those things make you laugh when you feel like crying. The things that matter most can't be bought or earned, they're the quiet, everyday blessings we often overlook. One man in his 80s said something I'll never forget. He looked around his modest living room and said, "This place isn't fancy. But it's full of memories. That chair? My wife used to read to the kids in it. That table? We shared Sunday meals there for 40 years. These walls have heard laughter, arguments, and apologies. They've seen love grow old and stronger. And that's the kind of wealth we should be chasing now. Not money in the bank, but love in the room. Not titles or trophies, but peace in your heart. You get to a certain age and you finally realize peace is the most valuable thing you can own. So maybe it's time to stop asking, what do I want to do, and start asking, who do I want to be? Because doing will always be limited by health, by time, by circumstances. But being? Being is limitless. You can be kind. You can be present. You can be grateful. And those things don't fade. In fact, they get richer with age. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I haven't done all that. I've missed opportunities. I've stayed too quiet. I've made too many mistakes. I want to stop you right there. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. Every moment you're still breathing is a moment you can begin again. Not from scratch, but from wisdom. You see, your story doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. In fact, the cracks are often what let the light in. The most inspiring people I've ever met were not the ones who had it all figured out, but the ones who had been through something and still smiled anyway. The ones who lost love and still chose to love again. The ones who knew pain and still chose kindness. That's not a weakness. That's power. Quiet, steady, powerful resilience. And if you've made it this far in life, you've got it too, whether you see it yet or not. Maybe your body doesn't move like it used to. Maybe you don't remember every name, or the stairs feel steeper than they once did. But your spirit, the deep down part of you that laughs at old jokes and softens when someone holds your hand, that part is alive and well. And it deserves to be heard, honored, and shared. So share your stories. Don't keep them locked up like old china in a cupboard. Tell your grandkids how you fell in love. Tell your neighbor how you found your first job. Tell someone how you got through heartbreak and grief. These stories aren't just memories, they're maps. And someone out there might be lost, looking for the exact path you've already walked. And while you're at it, listen too. Ask someone younger how they're doing. Really ask. Share a moment. It's not about giving advice, it's about showing that you care. That human connection, across age and time, is one of the most powerful things we can offer one another. If you've spent your life taking care of everyone else, maybe now is the time to take care of you. Not in some grand, selfish way, but in quiet, nourishing ways. Say no to things that don't feel right. Say yes to things that light you up. Give yourself permission to rest. To dream again. To laugh without guilt. To cry without shame. You've earned your softness. You've earned your peace. And if today feels uncertain, if the world feels like it's moving faster than you can follow, pause. Breathe. Know this, your presence still matters. Your voice still matters. Your heart, your wisdom, your experiences, they matter more than you know. There are people who haven't met you yet who need your story. There are sunsets you haven't seen, songs you haven't heard, flavors you haven't tasted. There are still surprises waiting. You haven't missed your chance. You're still in it. Right here. Right now. So live. Not for someday. Not for someone else. But for you. For those of you who are still curious. Still kind. Still becoming. And remember, life isn't over. It's just changing. And change can be beautiful when you let it guide you toward what truly matters.